Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Retire Right. My name is Ryan Wyatt, and per usual, I am joined by Nick Lewandowski and Ron Wyatt. And today we're going to talk about a question that if you're in the situation, or maybe at some point in time have wondered if you're in the situation, maybe it'll be slightly uncomfortable. But the question that we're going to focus on is, are you paying an advisor to simply just warehouse your assets? And of course, we'll explain in detail what we mean by warehousing your assets later on. And the topic or the focus is certainly not meant to be inflammatory. There are plenty of advisors who do a great job managing portfolios, but as investors get closer to retirement, the question becomes, is your portfolio simply being held and managed, or is it actually being coordinated with all of the decisions that drive and shape your financial situation throughout retirement? Retirement is not just about investments. It's about taxes. It's about replacing your income efficiently. It's when I say efficiently, I mean tax efficiently. It's Social Security decisions, healthcare decisions, estate planning, RMD or required minimum distribution planning, etc. So today, Ron, Nick, and myself are going to talk about the difference between just your standard asset management and true financial coordination, where the investment management side is tied or coordinated with your financial planning, or just anything that you experience kind of in your day-to-day life in retirement.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Gentlemen, how's life going? What's new? Anything exciting?
Nick?
Yeah, just got back from the annual boys golf competitive championship that we do with some of my college buddies every summer. And happy to report my team won for the second year running.
There you go.
So my 2-year-old is thrilled that we brought home the championship. Again, it's really important to my wife and young daughter that I go on this trip and compete every summer for a few days.
Your 2-year-old is your biggest fan, I take it?
Biggest fan, Papa's biggest fan.
Ron, what's new with you?
I just got back from a bike race in Chicago, did fine. Trying to decide if I want to, at the end of August, beginning of September, go to Denver to try to set a record attempt. My speed was decent, but it's kind of on the borderline if I'll be able to make it or not.
Very nice, very nice. And for me, nothing too much, honestly. Feel like summer's starting to wind down pretty quickly. For me, this time of year, when the hockey season starts, I coach hockey for a high school around here. And once I start to see practices and things coming onto the schedule, that's usually the signal that, hey, summer's coming to an end. So I'm excited for it. But I feel like summer flew by.
Yeah.
So I've already introduced the topic that we're going to focus on, guys. And Ron, I'm going to start with you. Just a quick question. When we say warehousing assets, what are we actually talking about there? Can you explain that in plain English?
Sure. Some advisors will, open accounts, invest the money, monitor, rebalance, all that good stuff. And that's very, very important. Think of driving on vacation. So your plan is your GPS, right? Shows you how to get there. And the investments are basically the engine of the car, right? It powers it. You need some type of return. And so what you want to make sure is first of all, the portfolio is set up to achieve your return. So it needs to be coordinated with the plan. And you also want to make sure you can sleep at night. So when the markets are doing very well, you want to make sure you participate enough in it so you don't want to get more aggressive at the wrong time. But on the other hand, when the markets eventually go down, you want to make sure that you can sleep at night and not panic at the bottom. So, focus on return and make sure you can handle the risk. Very important. Then after that, there's a lot more coordination that needs to be done. And that has a lot to do with tax strategies, withdrawal strategies, which we'll get into, I'm sure.
And Ron said something in there that I just want to just take one step further. He said that the investments should be set up to achieve the return that you need. What he's really saying there is that when you have a detailed financial plan that you're revisiting a couple times a year, that allows you to start solving for smaller pieces of the retirement puzzle, for lack of better words. The rate of return that you need to achieve your spending goals is one of those. So we start with the plan, we figure out what return you need to achieve your goals, and then we can structure the portfolio and make sure that it's really very coordinated with that plan.
Exactly.
So, Nick, earlier I said when I was introducing today's topic that I said retirement isn't just about investments. Could you expand on that and maybe bring that point a little bit more home for us?
There's a lot of other decisions that play into the retirement puzzle, as you talked about. So say you got two families, they both have $2 million invested, their allocations are similar and appropriate. So on paper, their situations from an investment perspective appear to be nearly identical. But if no one's paying attention to other decisions, things can get out of whack. So say one family starts Social Security too early, another misses Roth conversion opportunities, one's taking withdrawals from the wrong accounts and taxes are all over the place. One's paying unnecessary Medicare surcharges as a result of that. Maybe one has outdated beneficiaries on accounts. If someone passes away, money goes to the wrong place. None of those are investment issues on their face, but they have a huge impact on the overall outcome of retirement. And also, as Ron was talking about, can actually mean that the portfolio was inappropriate anyway in some dimension, even though in isolation it looks like it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's really a coordination challenge, and if done incorrectly, it could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And for example, with like missed Roth conversion opportunities, combining that with taking money from the wrong accounts.
Schedule your complimentary review with Ryan and his team today. Just visit them online at wyzewealthadvisors.com or call 724-271-7019 to get started. That's 724-271-7019 to get started.
Another thing too is that I would say when you retire, you're not retiring on, your portfolio's returns alone. You're retiring on, the after-tax income you can draw down on the portfolio. You're retiring on the decisions you make regarding how much you spend, your healthcare costs. Do you work until you're, closer to Medicare age? Do you take on the higher costs on the private exchange if you retire earlier? That's just 3 off the top of my head. There's many, many, many more interconnected decisions or choices that you'll make throughout retirement. When it comes to the hidden cost of, uncoordinated advice, where do you see people falling through the cracks?
Even if the portfolio is decently managed, sometimes people miss Roth conversion opportunities. Required minimum distribution planning is another one I see a lot. That relates to if you have higher income at the wrong time, it could affect your Medicare premiums. And then, capital gains and estate planning are interrelated. What you ultimately want to try to do is while you're, alive, you want growth, but you don't want to pay tax on that growth. And upon death, you'd like that unrealized gain to disappear. Mm-hmm. And there's ways that you can achieve both of those. And a lot of people miss that opportunity.
Okay.
Building off that, a lot of this also relates very strongly to withdrawal strategy someone uses in retirement. A couple of things that happen here. One, retirees often assume that all dollars are equal, and I need my whatever, $50,000, $75,000 a year to live off of. I have a pool of money, I take it from there, and that overlooks the fact that, like Ron was saying, these different things can have different tax treatments in each year. Related to that is another thing is sometimes people are aware that things are taxed differently, but they only focus on keeping their taxes as low as possible in the current year, which can actually create bigger problems down the line if you're not factoring in things like Medicare premiums, Roth conversions, all that stuff that Ron was talking about. So it's where you pull money from, the order of withdrawals and the timing of withdrawals can really impact your portfolio's longevity and the total amount of taxes you pay over time in retirement.
This might sound, I don't want to say crazy, but I can't think of a better word to use. But sometimes the greatest value isn't outperforming the market by 1% consistently. It's actually avoiding the mistakes that can compound against you really for most of retirement if left unaddressed.
So we like to try to do both.
So Nick, I'm gonna stick with you here and I would transition into what coordination actually looks like. And if someone's listening thinking maybe my portfolio is just sitting on a platform, what would they expect from a more coordinated, planning approach?
The conversations are just going to start extending, or they're going to extend beyond the investments. There's going to be conversations about how retirement income that's needed is being generated amongst all the different sources, not only the portfolio. Conversations about targeting a tax bracket, both in the current year and in future years, should be happening if everything's coordinated. When Social Security fits in with those things, when Roth conversion should happen, if they should happen at all. The charitable giving and the impact on taxes and estate planning over time should be a conversation. If one spouse or the other passes away, how does that impact income in the future and spending in the future? Beneficiaries are the way that things are designated and titled on accounts coordinated with a will. It's just these conversations, again, extending beyond investments to these other topics is the big tell.
But also related, it kind of, everything comes full circle. It gets away from investments, but it relates back to
That's
it.
correct.
Yeah, nothing happens in isolation. It's all interconnected, right?
So retirement isn't a collection of separate decisions. We've said it several times throughout the episode. Decisions shouldn't be made in isolation. A coordinated approach is what we believe is. I don't even want to say the best approach. It's the approach that somebody needs when going through retirement. And if we come back to today's question, are you paying an advisor to warehouse your assets? Again, there's nothing wrong with investment management. It's an essential part of that retirement planning puzzle that we've been talking about. But again, as retirement approaches, or maybe you even just recently entered retirement, the portfolio becomes only one piece of a much larger puzzle. When you're in your working years and your accumulation years, maybe it at one point was the most important piece. But as that paycheck stops and you transition to retirement, the planning opportunities become much different. And the real question becomes, are your investments, again, coordinated with taxes, income strategy, estate plan, the rest of your financial picture? And retirement outcomes really are rarely determined by a single investment decision, but more often determined by whether all the moving pieces work together. So we appreciate you tuning into the episode. We hope that you found it informative. If you have topics that you want us to cover in the future, please keep them coming in. And if you think somebody out there could benefit from a more coordinated approach for retirement planning, please feel free to share the episode with them. Thanks for tuning in.
This episode's content is for informational purposes only. Opinions expressed herein are solely those of Wyze Wealth Advisors, unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by our firm as to other parties' informational accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with an advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation.